Today we're going to talk about building benefit guides. We have some exciting new updates to share with most of you, if not all. So we'll go through that. And again, the panelists here, we also have from Benelinks, Ian Legler, who's our Salesforce admin, Ashlyn Montgomery, who's on our service team, and Jessica Smith on the marketing side. So thank you guys for joining us. They'll be keeping track of questions that come in as we work through, and we'll pause hopefully kind of halfway in between and see if we can answer some questions then, but also at the end of the presentation. One thing that I do as we kind of get into the rhythm of these presentations, we will automatically send out the recording to those that are in attendance post, and then it'll be available to anybody for future reference. So this is the session that I really enjoy when I do my demos. And even during our training sessions, this is what I call the laser light show. So it's fun. Push buttons and see what happens, right? It's exciting. So I'm going to walk you through the outline today, and then I'll show and tell within our TSO. Couple things I always mention to folks when we're talking about building benefit guides that are built within the Benelink Salesforce system. Is that we use an application called Conga Composer. And that is we're reselling that license, the full software license that you have. That is the critical component for us to be able to create all the pieces and parts, not only to get the information out of Salesforce, right? But the button to execute it. So all those moving parts we use, kind of the best of the best. They're inherently built in Salesforce, and they are a document generating tool. Why is this important? Because we're giving you a full license. This is very unique. When I talk to folks about Benelinks and what makes us different, we give you Fortune 500, Fortune 50, call it what you want, quality applications. We're not giving you a library. As far as the benefit guides are concerned, we're not giving you a limitation on what you can do with it. We're giving you a full universal Salesforce license with Conga, and you can use it throughout the system. Coming in 2025, Ian and I are diving into Conga land, we call it, and there'll be a lot more that we're going to use cases built into the Benelinks Managed package to use Conga Composer. Because again, we're using Conga for the booklets, we're using it for generating our proposals, and we're starting to use it for compliance documents. So more to come on that. So it's a full license. So it's unlimited availability for you to build out as many different custom designs, modifications, really making this yours, right? Again, that's unique to the industry. Where most of the other benefit guides, you kind of have a library to choose from. So that's very limiting. As an agency owner, I understand the importance of your, unique marketing for your clients, and this gives you that capability. So with that, kind of the key features that we're going to go through today for understanding how is this built, managed, and maintained, is we'll talk about the templates. So as I'd mentioned, unlimited number. We give you 2 to start for the benefit guides. Again, more of those to come. I think we're going to have a small, medium, and large content one here very soon. But doesn't mean you can't build your own, right? So that you have the ability to have a custom designed specific to your agency business that looks not like anybody else's, which is really, really critically important. And then again, you can slice and dice those templates in various ways. You can do it by market size, you can do it by product type, you can do it by, different regions, maybe if you have multiple locations. So you have unlimited capabilities of building out these templates. From there, then, we're going to talk a little bit about the field mapping. So what Conga Composer does is it takes all the fields that we have in the system, various fields throughout, and we'll go through that, and it'll map those fields into your template. Okay, so it's a process of getting that set. But the benefit, of course, and kind of, one of the key elements of Benelinks is to eliminate that duplicate entry. So if you build it in Benelinks, you have the account information set, you have your policies up to date, right? We have our logos added in, customer service numbers, right? And now it's going to be a plug and play, right? So it's just eliminating that redundancy of building that information over here, moving it in and rebuilding it in a booklet, then rebuilding it in our ease or navigator. So this is one of the key steps where we can reduce or eliminate that duplicate entry. It's already in there. Like, yeah, let's use the information that we're building into Benelinks in all the different ways that we can, and building a benefit guide is one of those. The benefit button, the benefit guide button, we used to call it benefit at a glance. We've changed our naming on some of these things, but that's what executes the information, right? So we have our template behind the scenes. It's all visible for your system admins internally. None of this is hidden from you. We have the field mapping, which is built into those templates. We execute what we want it to do with the button, right? And then once the output, right, we're pulling information out of the system in a template that is industry specific, a benefit guide. We use the new templates that we have in Benelinks are built in PowerPoint. And that pulls that information out into this beautiful template that is custom, yours and or our templates that we provide. So that execution, it's getting it out of the system. And lastly, really important is that we added additional automation with a PowerPoint add-in, a custom PowerPoint add-in that we have to set up one time in your actual PowerPoint Microsoft software. Okay, and that enhances even more automation, which we're going to talk about and show you some of the cool things that it can do. So overarching, this is all the layers and how this all comes together. We're going to show you the template, the design. Why is this important, right? This is going to be custom built for you. You can take ours and modify them. You can actually use your own. You can go to a graphic designer. We are not graphic designers, FYI. Do not feel comfortable building out your own templates. We try to resist that because we are not graphic designers, but we're happy to help with mapping. But you can have your own graphics, right? Your own fonts. We have some agencies that have their own custom fonts. Great. Obviously your branded colors and even the colors of your clients, their logo colors. So really unique, right? That design. The build, right? We can decide what content and the layout. You're going to make that decision. You know, how many pages do we want to add in our worksite? Do we not? Do we want more details about our rates? Do we want less, right? So that is fully customizable and you make those decisions. Do we want, you know, an informational page, right? About maybe our HSA versus our HMO plans, etc. And then field mapping. So again, because this is all, we give you the custom build, we already have some of this built in with, for example, the button, the Metalinks, the benefit guide button. But we can manipulate some of the field mapping. Some of those mappings are already built in. In the back end, we call those queries. But we may want to build out some custom fields to accommodate what your booklet needs. And we can even do repeating tables, which means that if we have multiple, you know, of the same thing, we can create repeating tables. So a lot of really cool things we can do with the mapping with that capability. A couple things we'll go through. Okay, so all of this is set. We have our template, we have our button, we have the queries. We can modify those, customize it for you. This is where we need to make those determinations then on where is the data coming from, right? Where is the information within Benelinks? Three key main areas is going to be at the count level, right? We're going to pull a booklet for one of our clients. We're going to need some of that client information already loaded into Benelinks, but once it's there, it's pretty static. So we shouldn't have to make those modifications yearly. It's kind of a one-time setup. That includes the client's logo, and I'll talk about that in a little bit and how we can do that. It's not a document, it is a URL. In addition, then we also have to have eligibility information, standardly with benefit guides, right? They're going to talk about hours per week, minimum, new hire waiting periods, payroll cycles, right? So we want to make sure that we have that information loaded into Benelinks. And if we're doing our due diligence and keeping Benelinks up to date, it should be already in there. So really important information though. Almost every booklet has an eligibility page, and that's where that information is going to pull in. And then our policies and services, as I talk about, you know, and I preach and talk about and talk about and talk about with all of our clients and onboarding with new clients, is that the most critical element and area of the system in Benelinks that you are responsible for and your team members is keeping your policy and services up to date. That's the area of Benelinks that you have to touch every year. right? Because you're renewing those policies. You have to update the plan designs. You need to make sure those rates are up to date, right? So a lot of movement at that record level. And the more information we put in there, the more we can pull out of it, right? So once in, and then we can have multiple use cases for that information. But critical for us to be able to successfully build out our booklets. And the level of detail that Benelux captures or can capture is significant, right? We have not only kind of the shell of a policy, which I talk about all the time, being a contract, which has our effective date, has the policy type, medical, dental, vision. But we also have a next level, a related record called a plan or a plan design from our plan library. That's the details of our plan, deductible, copays, coinsurance. Okay, adding in our rates. What are the total rates that the client is being billed? But from there, we have a contribution calculator, right? It'll do it for us, but we got to push the button. And we have to set that contribution, which is then obviously for a benefit booklet or benefit guide. The benefit is if we do that, we set that contribution, it'll break it down, not only split up the employer-employee cost, but it'll break it down per pay period. And that's what the employees want in their benefit guides. So all that detail needs to be in your policies and or services. We can pull in service details as well. Okay. We talk a lot about our life cycle within Benelux. It's like, when do I have to build that, right? Oh, well, if you use our quoting engine and our proposal tool, you can build all of that information in your proposal, and then you can market that quote as sold, and it moves all that detail right into your sold policies. You can also use our renew policy button that we've gone through, right? That'll help year after year, right? So, oh, gee, this client, they stayed with United Healthcare, they changed plans, or maybe they didn't even change plans, but the rates changed, right? So we have to update that, and that renew policy button helps us do that. At the end of the day, that information has to be updated, it has to be captured, and has to be maintained. But use cases for it, now we have that information in our system, we can now use it to build our booklets, and we can also push that information over to Ease or Navigator. The benefit button, why is this important? Because I think it's important for everybody to start to understand kind of how this whole universe of technology works. And I come from your space. I know, probably a little bit more than you do, but not a whole lot. But I think it's important to understand what that benefit button does. It executes, right? It grabs everything that we told it to do. It has the template and it grabs the fields, merges it all together, and the output for this particular template is PowerPoint. What's cool, and I'll show you, is that we have now the capability of kind of building multiple documents. We can drag and drop them across, and we can decide then ad hoc with each client, do I want to just build my booklet, or maybe I want to add in some client compliance documents at the back end, and or even put in some of the flyers for maybe our core carriers that we sell. Okay, that execution can be modified. We have right now most of our newer kind of clients that we've kind of made some of these updates recently for. We can execute and pull in policies that are pending, which is now kind of the new first status for our policies. But we also can pull in enforce. So you're going to make that decision. Are you guys doing it really far in advance, right? Where you want to pull those booklets before the policies take effect? Or are you kind of doing it kind of, after the effective date? But a lot of control we have over that button. And again, what's the benefit of building a booklet quickly and efficiently inside of Benelux? Multiple reasons, right? We are creating kind of brand recognition with your agency. You're able to create benefit guides for various different markets and sizes, but you're creating that consistency. You're reducing the amount of error and duplication, okay? And you're able to provide those benefit booklets. For most of us, building benefit guides or benefit booklets tend to be saved for our larger or key clients. This allows you then to build guides quickly and efficiently for all of your clients if you would like. We did that at my agency and got lots and lots of referrals as a result. So something to consider. So the last piece is that add-in, which I'm going to show you. It's a one-time setup. We do have to have that set up in on our team does a great job of getting that add-in and the instructions and what that does. So it finalizes with this really great automation and inserts our logos for not only our clients, but our carriers. It'll delete extra slides. So when you think about a template has to have all variables built to start, right? We may have one client that has one medical plan. We may have another client that has three. We have to build the template to its fullest capacity. And then what this really cool add-in does, it'll delete all the slides that we're not using. Okay. And lastly, this is a newer feature. Not only do we have a table of contents, but it reorders the slides and it creates a final table of contents and deletes any of the rows that we're not using. So this is a new feature. I can't wait to show you. So all those components together is how we can build those benefit booklets, but also do the customization so they can be really specific and unique to your agency and your clients. Lastly, heads up, we're going to send out an invite after this. It'll be next week, same time, same place. And we're going to talk about reports and dashboards, how we can build them, how you can start to build them, right? So that really quick and easy ways to modify, build your own, how we can add those to dashboards, how we can use some of that information to update our homepage. So it's really relevant to what you want everybody on your team to be seeing and looking at daily. And we can even subscribe so the system can send us updates. It can send us reminders of when we want those reports and dashboards visible to us and our team members. So good stuff coming. All right, let's take a visual now. So we're here. Surprise, surprise. We're going to use Bob's Bakery. Okay. So what I want to do, I'm going to show you kind of the general process, and I'm going to go into kind of how we make sure as a user that we have all the information we need set up so that we can successfully generate our benefit guides. Okay. So once again, everything in Salesforce starts at the account level, right? So we're going to go into a client and we're going to see the details of that a client account, as well as all the related records like those important policies and services and even our eligibility. The button, where does it live? Some of you will see it here, and some of you may have to go into the pull down to see it. Some of you may have it being called Benefits at a Glance, Benefits Guide, Benefit Book. We can call it anything you want, right? Depending on what you guys use internally to define those benefit books or guides. This is the button that executes all the information, right? Before we go into kind of filling out the information, I want to show you the back end really quick. So every system admin at your agency has access to this Conga Composer application. Remember, I mentioned at the very beginning that we're giving you a full license. Now, doesn't mean you're going to understand this, doesn't mean that you're going to be able to do much with it yet. But it's really important to understand that when we resell you the Conga Composer application, you have full access and full rights. We go in here and we do a lot of the updating for you, but your system admin would have this application available, which includes our templates, right? I'm going to show you what that template looks like because I think it's really important to understand the transparency and ease of use. I can download this template, I can modify it. You'll be able to see what the mapping fields in. I can reload it. The Conga queries are what we then load into our button. Remember, that's what executes it. And in here, we have all of the different queries that we're using. May look overwhelming. It's a little bit overwhelming, to be honest, but it's important to know, A, the transparency, and there's definitely things that you can learn. You may never build a query. By the way, I can't either. I can modify one. But when I was an agency owner, I was able to get our booklet set, and I was able to go in and do like a market refresh every year. So there's ways that you can work into this and have the ability. And if you have some, stellar techie people at your agency, then this is all going to be available to you. We just go in and do that for you in most cases, but that's where it lives. Okay. And then again, on the account level, the button to execute all that information. So what are we pulling into the system, right? When we look at a benefit guide, what information is coming over? And really the core of what we're pulling in is going to either live in the benefit requirements information here, right? Which then obviously our new hire, our payroll, our minimum hours, or for some of you, we may have moved some of that into our new object in the last year, which is our eligibility. That'll give us the ability to do that in either direction, okay? It's going to capture the same information, which are your minimum requirements, right? And that ever important payroll cycle. Why is that important? Because our system when you create a policy and you set the contribution strategy, it actually will calculate that contribution down to the payroll cycle. Okay, so it's going to do all that math for us with our contribution calculating button. Okay, so eligibility may live for you guys, for some of you, on the benefit requirements on the details page. If you have more complex clients, then it may live in the eligibility tab. Okay, we're going to set a primary eligibility group and it'll pull in from there. Regardless, that information needs to be here, right? We need to be able to define it. Other really important element is our company logo field. So we have the company logo field in two different places in Benelux. It's the same exact field. It lives on our client account. It also lives on our carrier account. And you can see here that this field is not a drag and drop document. It is a URL. Okay, so we have to get that file, that PNG or JPEG, converted to a public URL so that we can pull it into our template. And how do we do that? Same exact field. You will want to have this if you want your client's logo inserted. You will also want to fill in this company logo when we look at our carrier accounts. Okay, so sometimes one-time setup, right? Carrier logos don't change very often, but really important to go through if you want that representation. There's a lot of brand recognition with those logos, right? So you want to go through it and one time, as you can see here, make that setup, right? Here are the main areas of information that we're going to pull in. One of them being our member services, and our member services website can be different than the generic. This is what the employees are going to call. And then we go down here, same exact field, same exact process, but we got to get that information in. And a lot of times this is the one-time setup. So how do I get this public URL? Okay, so the question mark. Okay, whenever you're looking for resources and support, go to the question mark for more resources within Benelux. One of the things that we've added in the last year is a link to a public site that will convert your documents into that public URL that you need. So you can either ask your clients or the carriers for an actual, file of those logos. You can Google search an image, right? And find a copy that you can download. Okay. You'll go in, you'll go choose the image. I did a couple this morning, I think. Let me go grab one. So I'm grabbing the file. Here's one. And now what it's doing, it's taking that actual file and it's converting it for me. And now I can take the direct link and this is the URL. I'm going to copy this. I'm going to put it into my company logo. Okay. One-time setup. Carriers don't change their logos, but definitely needs to get added. Same thing with our clients. Clients don't change their logos very often either. Okay. So we want to go through that, make sure we have it set up. The more we do up front, the less we have to do later. And again, year after year, if you're using Benelux for building your benefit guides, you're not going to have to do it year to year unless there's changes. So company logo, member services phone, and member services website. Those are relatively newer fields for those of you that are joining from prior systems, so we can update your booklets. But this is very helpful too because it isolates those phone numbers and websites specifically for those member services. Because again, we're building our booklets for our clients, for their employees, right? Any quick questions or anything that come up that we want to go through about that? That is a point that a lot of people get stuck on, okay? Eligibility, information on the account, and that company logo. Okay. And then the most important part, policies. Okay. We've recently updated your orgs to add different status values for our policies and services. One of them being the status where we have pending, right? We're renewing our policies earlier than the actual effective date, or the system is now setting that status as pending. Most of us are going to be going in, moving those policies to sold, renewing those policies, and they're still going to be in a pending status because enforce technically doesn't start until the policies are active, right? So a lot of the booklets we can generate, we can set that button so that that pending status is what pulls it in, because we don't want all of our benefits, right? We don't want enforce and pending and God forbid termed, right? We just want our pending. for most cases. So regardless of how we get the policy information in this system, are we using our proposal system, marking that quote as sold? Are we renewing policies with our renew policy button, right? Are we building brand new ones? The important factors here are getting the level of detail for all of that to pull in to our benefit guides. So policy type, obviously, we're going to have our plan design, which is what I mentioned, that next level of detail. Some of that information comes over from our IDEON partnership for ACA, dental vision, some level funded, but that plan design has to be filled in, right? So whether we have to manually build it into the library or we pull it in from the library that IDEON gives us, this is the level of detail that's the critical component, right? And in a perfect world, we get it from IDEON, right? We don't have to build it ourselves. That's the perfect state, right? We'd like to have more options to do that, but at least they give us what they give us, which is the ACA and some dental vision. But you can see the level of detail that we don't have to necessarily build out. If it's not, then we can clone, we can build our own, but it has to live in the library. I call it the plan library. So my policies have to have that level of detail. Okay, I can pull that in. It's a record related to a record. So I'm pulling in that plan record into my policy. Next level, obviously I'm going to set my rating method. This particular medical plan is 4-tier. I'm going to set that total premium, what the client is paying on their bill by tier, right? Got to make sure we have that premium in. And the last element is setting my contribution strategy. You can see this one is setting a percentage. When I use the update contribution button, it sets the percentage and does the calculations for me, and I can visually see what the math has been done here. This information is now going to be pulled in, right, to my benefit guide. So if any one of these elements are missing, right, you pull a benefit guide and we don't have rates, right? What I explained to someone in training yesterday, going through how to build a benefit guide for the first time, is that if we don't set our contribution strategy, then the system makes the assumption that the employees are paying nothing, right? So that means that the assumption is 100% is what the employer is going to pay. So we need to make sure we set the contribution strategy accordingly. Otherwise, it'll pull into our benefit booklet showing 0 for the employee's contribution. That's the level of detail, right? We need the records in the system, right? We need the type, we need the rates, and we need to set the contribution strategy. Oops. And the plan design. That's the important factor. The idea of having a plan library is that we can reuse those, right? It's not a one-to-one requirement, right? If I have sold multiple Kaiser plans, to various clients, I can pull that same exact plan design into various policies that I'm building. So that's the ultimate goal, is that we don't have to build one each time. Not necessarily. Okay. So when I explain to folks, what do I need to do to get this working? You either need to decide whether you're going to use our templates or you're going to have your own. Hire yourself a graphic designer, have them build it out. Maybe you already have one built out. You've already hired someone to build it out for you. It's a one-time cost. You have a design now that's unique and custom to you. If you use ours, great. We go through it and make changes, right? Review it. What do you like? What do you not like? What do you want to change? Okay. Next step, we have to load the system with some basic one-time setup items, right? We need the client logos. We need the carrier logos. We need the carrier member services and website. If we do it and we do it right, we don't have to do it again, right? And so that's going to be critical factors. Make sure eligibility is up to date, which shouldn't change that often, right? If we do it right and we get it set up with the client, and then our policies, right? But if we use automation, our proposal conversion, mark it as sold, or a renew policy button. Okay. One-time setup, renewing our policies is a lot easier than building them the first time. All of these elements are pulling in, right? I would love to say that it's so much easier to build a benefit guide than what I just explained. However, the reason why we can't just make it super, super simple is that our industry is complicated, right? There's a lot of moving parts. And so the beautiful thing about being able to do this is we can pull information from various places within the Salesforce bundling system. It's just understanding where the information is coming from. Oh, I want to mention one more thing before I move on. So I had mentioned within the policy, we are setting that button, right? We can tell the system, do I want to see just the policies that are pending? Do I want to see policies that are in force? Or maybe both, but that's a lot of policies that we probably don't need. The other variable that the system and the button is executing is it's all the way to the bottom here. It is setting it based on this checkbox. Why do we have that? It's a little dated. We may or may not continue this field in the future. However, I still see value. So in the situation that I have pending policies, right? All my policies, maybe I have an executive only policy. I don't want it to pull into my booklet. I can find this handout checkbox. It's here somewhere. It's somewhere in your policies. It may be at the bottom, maybe at the top, maybe hidden, hopefully not. But I can simply uncheck that box and it will not pull this policy into the benefit guide. So two variables are deciding what policies go into the booklet. One is the status, and you get to decide enforce, pending, or both, and or the handout box. So you can manually manipulate the system for it to pull in, only the policies you want for that particular guide. Hopefully that's helpful. We're still using it. We used to use it more, but I think it's still an important variable to know about and to use, that you can easily switch things off and on if I need to build a booklet. Okay. So now we can, execute the benefit guide. Okay. So what this is that it's going in, again, this is our application, and it's pulling in our templates. So some of this might be new for folks. We didn't have the ability to build a guide before. And so now I can actually drag and drop different documents that I want to use in this particular guide. Maybe I want to add some compliance. Maybe I don't, right? Oops, I gotta tell it what to do. Maybe I want to add a packet. Maybe that I sell a ton of United Healthcare. I want to add that packet at the end of my booklet. So I have the ability now to take various documents and decide per client, which ones do I want to use to build one, comprehensive output, which is our PowerPoint document. Kind of nice to use. We have a client that we built out a very large template or booklet for, and we use this because it ended up being like 150 pages or something. So we can segment it, but the booklet if we needed to. So really nice feature. We're going to take the information, the different documents we want, and we can build it out. And again, it's per client. We're going to move that forward. And I always explain to folks when we're using Conga, there's lots of buttons. Everybody gets excited about wanting to push all the buttons. Our templates are very complicated. So the only button on this page we're going to push is merge and download. You'll notice that as this is queuing up, that the one limitation of Conga is that you'll see that the documents have to be in the same format. So you can only do PowerPoint with PowerPoint. We can't combine PowerPoint with Word. So some of the compliance documents are in PowerPoint for that reason. But at least we can build it, right? So, which is nice. Kind of an add-on that we didn't have before. Now we have that ability. And you could see from that prior again that we can have multiple. You saw that we had HBand and composite. You can also build as, large group, small group. You could have a regional booklet, anything in any way you wanted. You can have as many different templates as you would like. Let's grab this. So now we're going to open up, and it's going to open up in PowerPoint, right? It's just that document was generated by Conga and grabbed our template that we told it. And it's pulling in all of those fields that we mapped it to in the system. So initially, when you open up the PowerPoint document, it looks like something is broken. It's not, because again, remember that final piece. The additional add-in that Benelinks has built that is embedded in your PowerPoint one-time setup is now here, and I have a Benelinks booklet tab. And now I can process my booklet and all the cool things that I mentioned, the automation. It's going to delete extra pages that we don't need. It's going to insert my logos, not just for my client, but also my carriers. So it does a lot of work for us that we would manually have to do. Really important to get this add in and have the right version, okay? Because we have updates that we make just like anything else. So once we have that, right, it deleted the pages and inserted the images that we'd already preset. Brand new feature now, as you can see here, we have a table of contents, but it's not completed. So we have an additional button now where we can set our table of contents. Again, it's going to run. And what it's doing here, it's going to reorder our pages based on what pages got deleted, right? It's going to renumber them for us. And it's going to delete any parts of our table of contents that we're not using. This is so new, right? So if I didn't have disability in the past, this row, because this is a table, would be empty. Now it will actually delete the entire row. Whoop, whoop. So this is a huge improvement, right? Table of content builder, right? So now if I have, a client that only has medical and vision, everything's going to, be removed except for our medical and vision, etc. Okay, so much improved dynamic table of contents. And again, we have to have that add-in to execute that. Okay, so we go through, you can see it inserted some of the mapping, inserted the logo, the year. You'll see if you go through it, it inserts the client's name, inserts the client, the broker's information. This is our demo, so it doesn't have the broker name in here. That eligibility page, right? So this inserts the hours per week, the effective date, the waiting period, right here, date of hire. Okay, so it's taking all those elements and inserting them in. So I've got my standard communication, right? And then inserting into that all of the different, very specific to this client details. That's the benefit of this template, right? We have a template on the back end, and now it's inserting for each client in the same place, in the same manner. And by the way, that template and the content is all up to you. If you don't like the way this is being explained, then you get us the modifications, right? This is hard coded, meaning every time the booklet's going to say the same information, but you have complete control over the messaging. Colors, fonts, pictures, don't like, great, doesn't matter. I'm okay with that. Again, I'm not a graphic designer. You can change those as you need in your templates. But the idea is set, right? We've got kind of an educational page here. And here's the heavy lift, right? We have our client logo. Again, we have it in, and that plan detail. And then our breakdown. What's the cost for the employee? Not only total or monthly, it's breaking it down per pay period. And when we look inside of Benelinks, these numbers match because we're mapping those fields into our template. And so on and so forth, right? We go down the page, we've got dental, we've got vision, etc., right? And it's loading all the information in to each page based on for this particular client, is it sold or not? And again, those logos. So we go on down through the pages, it inserts the page numbers, and then our final contact page, which again, that member services website and member services phone number. Again, so, for anybody that's built benefit booklets, hundreds of them, maybe thousands, always find errors, right? No matter how many times we looked at the booklets, how many times we passed them around the room, have people look at them again, set them down, pick them up, print, go to the meeting, use the PowerPoint, always find something right in the middle of the presentation. That's what I used to do. And a lot of times it was this page. It was like, we didn't switch out the 800 number for Anthem, and now it's Kaiser. And guess what you have to do now? After the meeting, whether they noticed it or not, you go back, you have to regenerate, you have to redo, rebuild, da, 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 da. So a lot of extra work, right? That if we do it once correctly, it's pulling Kaisers in automatically for us, and we're never going to have some of those very annoying, simple typos that create a lot of extra work for us. So you can see ours. How many pages is this? Our sample is 10 pages. This is an example of only one medical, but we have it, in our template. So there's multiple. So if I have two medical, it'll pull in the page that has side by side, 3, 4, etc. But as I'd mentioned, we have some clients that have very large booklets, large group. I think some people always think, oh, this is for small business. We have to build our own for large. We have a client that doesn't, so they use our system. So it has to be built out, but this application can accommodate it, okay? So if you have a very comprehensive booklet, just know that it could be built and mapped into the Benelink system. And then you can see here kind of what's at the end, post booklet. I had that United Healthcare packet. So you might like to put some of that information kind of in the appendix of your booklet is fine, compliance documents as well. So this is the output, right? If you go through and something is missing, It's probably because we either have a status field that's not correct. Check that handout box, make sure that's checked. And it's understanding what's getting mapped to go look for in the system to see what and why things got missed. The last element I want to share is if you do it right, if we did it right, right? So building out a custom booklet for your agency is critical, I believe. I think it's takes you to the next level as an agency and a business, having something that's fully customized, your clients recognizing it as your agency's. And we talked through how we can do that. Second level of customization, though, is how do we build it so that the client feels like it was built just for them? This is a perfect example of how we can do that. If you build PowerPoint slides correctly, which took me a long time to figure this out, then you can set the design so that you can change the theme. So this example of Bob's Bakery, the logo is red, fire engine red. The background is blue. So I can simply go in and change my color scheme. I can actually get the colors from the client and I can change the theme and see how it changes everything. If I don't like that, I go back to the drawing board. I can actually build my own custom. But the idea is with a click of a button, we're changing our entire document and not having to go in. And I used to do this, I got smarter. Every single slide I had to modify those colors. That took hours, if not days. Let me see if I can find one I like. That's a little better. So again, trying to match it up, right? We can even create our own color scheme. Like I said, you can go in here, create your own customized colors that match exactly what the color scheme of the client is. And now it's going to exact match. And then I can update that. And then based on how it's built, it will then go through every single slide and do it for me. It's just about how we have the template built correctly to start. Huge time saver, right? Some people notice with ours, oh my gosh, it runs off the page. That's horrible. Well, the point is it's supposed to be fancy. And when you PDF it and get it ready for the client, it doesn't show that it's running off the page. So, but colors, fonts, pictures, this is ours. I never like ours when they get done because marketing is that way. You can always make it better. So happy to interchange anything that you see here, and you'll probably see a new version from us in the next 12 months. But it's, one of the things I do want to mention too is that the output is not PDF. Okay. Again, one of the advantages of building it and the output and the design is that this isn't, a PowerPoint document. If I needed to go in and make subtle changes, I have full capabilities of doing that, right? The output is out, right? And so here, gee, client doesn't have an HMO and I want to make a change. I can do that, right? We have last rights. I always talk about the importance of that. I was a very particular agency owner, but I was also successful. And part of our success was I need to be able to, on the fly, make changes if I have a special client to make sure that I can do that and I'm not stuck with a PDF that I cannot manipulate, right? So this gives us the ability to automate, generate these booklets quickly, effectively, with less error, if not eliminating, create brand recognition, but like anything in our world, there's always the but, right? This particular client likes it this way or that way, or I need to make some adjustments. So we have that ability to do that because the output is in a format that we can manipulate. Okay. Questions I get from folks sometimes is, well, if I modify it, do I have to regenerate? Once it's out, it's out. So you can regenerate these booklets as many times as you need, but you have to go push the button. Once it's out of the system, there's no way for it to, it's in a document. There's no way for the system to go grab it and update it, right? So if you find something is missing, you got to go back, fix the policy, right? And then regenerate. There's no limits on how many times we push the button. You can push the button, 30 times a day. So you do have to regenerate though, right? And then you get a new output, right? And then, so just be aware of that. Also by default, we save a version of that output for you, in the files. So There is, various versions that I've pushed this morning, but by default, it saves that original version when it generates the benefits guide. So you have a copy in the system if you ever need to go back and grab it. Took longer than I thought. That's okay. Questions, comments?
Hi, I have a couple comments, questions for you.
Okay.
So first thing is, if you saw anything today, such as the table of contents tab for the PowerPoint, if you don't have it, please email us at support@benalinks.com if you have not already messaged us in question and answer. And we will have to get the updated add-in to you through Dropbox. We cannot email it. So it has to go through Dropbox and you'll have to download it from there. So one of you I've already talked with. If anybody else needs it, please let us know. The second part is Rachel, if they have like carrier flyers they want to add in that don't already exist, what do they need to do for that to happen?
To load them into the system. Yeah.
Mhm.
So we'll have to convert them to PowerPoint. Again, if we're going to use that and we want it added in at the back end, it has to be the same application. And then we can add it into the templates here. So we can help facilitate that, but we'll have to do a conversion and then we'll have to add them into our templates. So once we have it loaded, then you'll be able to drag and drop them across. So we'll have to just have a conversation with those folks that want those added.
Okay, so email support again. And okay, perfect.
Yep. And you can see some of the compliance that are here. We'll be updating 2025. It's simply being able to create this template folder and then add the document. Then you'll have it available. Hardest part is conversion to PowerPoint. One of the other things I did mention, I will mention again, is that we have unlimited use cases for Conga. So you have this benefit guide, benefit at glance button. You also, for those of you that are using our proposals, have a button to generate those proposals. Use the same application, Conga Composer, right? But we can build buttons, right? So use cases, we have some clients that are starting to use and add compliance documents. And in that situation, if we're creating a brand new button under compliance, let's say, and you have your compliance documents in Word, then all of them in Word will work. Okay. Our button, because we're using it for the guide and PowerPoint is the best application for our benefit guides, right? Then that has to match the PowerPoint application. But if we're building a new button, we're using compliance and we got compliance Word docs, then we can use all Word docs. Just has to be the same across. And there's a lot more that we're going to be using Conga Composer for in the next year, but standardly right now, benefit guides and our proposal output is what we're using for you, right? Or we've created for you. And more clients are going in and using it for compliance, and then other use cases will come from Benalinks in the next year. So we're excited about that. The idea is in the system, why build it twice, right? And the use cases for multiple different types of booklets, the automation, the consistency, the structure is stable. You're creating branding. Okay. And I know it's hard sometimes to let go. I know it's hard sometimes because you think every client needs their own booklet. I would argue against that. I think any new client would look at this benefit guide and think you built it for them, and they would be happy as a claim. And it's all about creating efficiency. You may have to build custom booklets for a handful, but I would argue that 99.9, they're going to be ecstatic with the benefit guide coming from here. It may have to be a custom one that you built in, but it's then once built instead of over and over again. And for those of you that are going through fourth quarter chaos, this is probably about where you are in the process of renewing your business. You're probably right about at the point where you have to build your benefit guides, right? And you've probably built, I don't know, if you're not using Benelux, you've probably built 20, 30, 40, or 50. So I think hopefully it's this is a great add-in that potentially you can adopt for next fourth quarter to reduce the number of custom booklets that you're building by hand.